James, let's start with practice because we played your sound from De'Aaron Fox earlier in today's show, and you talked to De'Aaron about learning to play with Sabonis, and Sabonis was kind of one of the, as many positives as you could take away in that loss against Portland. Sabonis was one of the things where it was like, something was off there, and you talked to De'Aaron about that.
Yeah, I mean, like I was watching when you watch it back and you're sitting there, like why is it that there are always three people like surrounding Sabonis and just beating on him? And like, look, Sabonis isn't going to make it to 82 games playing like that. And so like you got to ask Fox and you got to ask Mike Brown and anyone that you can, like what is it that's happening that's causing that? Because it looked like bunch ball. Like when you go out and you watch like U5 soccer, like little tiny kids playing. Everyone's kicking the ball. They aren't even, they're just running around in like little groups, and they don't even know where the ball is. Sometimes they're laughing, But like with this, it really did feel like everyone was around Sabonis all the time. And we have to remember that De'Aaron and DeMontis only played like 14 or 15 games together last season. And that's the same with everybody else. I mean, so, like Fox sat the last 11 games of the season with a hand issue. Sabonis sat the last 9 games of the season with a knee injury. So while we want to act like these guys have been around each other forever and they know, how to play off each other, the fact is that Sabonis is such a unique type of player, and the Kings have never had a player like that while Fox has been here. DeMarcus Cousins could be that type of player, and you go back to the golden age, and Vlade is that type of player, and Brad Miller. So, like, there's a lot of other types of players that have been through Sacramento, but Fox specifically hasn't played with that. And a lot of these other guys, even Kevin Herter said it too. So, they're going to really have to work on spacing, and they're going to have to figure out how to get each other open and how to work with each other. And the offense is built to do that. But when things break down at the NBA level, players always regress to who they always are. They go back to their major habits, and I think that's what we saw. We saw the Kings sort of. That's why Mike Brown kept saying they just don't look like the team that we've seen. And it's like, well, they look like the team that we've seen as people who have been in Sacramento forever, because that's where players go. They go to where they're most comfortable, and they try to win in ways that they've always tried to win, and it didn't work. And so it's not back to the drawing board. It's like, let's get this thing cleaned up. If
Yeah.
that makes sense.
No, it absolutely does. And one of the things that we speculated about was, the physicality was the term that was used a lot yesterday, and how
Yeah.
physical Portland was with Sacramento. And James, I know we've looked at this schedule from like a competitive standpoint and how good these teams that the Sacramento Kings have coming up, including this weekend with the Clippers and the Warriors, and then you have the Grizzlies and the Miami Heat right after that. James, I don't know that you can name four more physical teams in the league than those four I just named right there. So if that was an issue against Portland, and no shade to Portland, they did a hell of a job. That's an issue that really has to be fixed right now. Like I hope they were able to pinpoint what the problem was and how to correct it, or how to not be afraid of it, or whatever the case may be, because they're going to get challenged this weekend, and they're going to get challenged next week.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Clippers last season, the Clippers, in my book, were the most physical team in the league.
And they picked
Like,
up right where they left off.
oh yeah, I mean, if you look at, I kept thinking, oh well, the Clippers are going to crash. They lost both their best players, and we're not talking about like short term. They were gone. Like Paul George missed most of the season. Kawhi Leonard missed most of the season, or all of the
All
season.
of it, yeah.
Yeah. So when you're looking at how that team was assembled, like how did they keep winning? And they won because Tyronn Lue is a good coach, but they also won because they just outplay. They played harder than everyone else. Every time you played them, it felt like a try hard game, and that's what the Kings need to get to. If the Kings want to be this team, they got to figure out how to be a try hard team, how to be that team that brings it every single night and battles and doesn't let another team dictate what they're going to do on the court. And that's what I think really Portland did. They said, okay, you can keep shooting the threes, but that doesn't mean that your spacing is good. Like, sure, Kevin Herter can shoot from 33 feet and hit. That's fine. That doesn't mean your spacing is good. So the Kings really have to work on their spacing. And, like, look, I think it's something that we've always been slightly concerned about. KZ Okpala has done a really good job defensively all the way through the preseason. And even in the first game, you watch him out there shutting down Damian Lillard early in the game. But he's part of the problem when it comes to the offensive end. And Mike Brown talked a little bit about that today. Like, if and he lumped not only KZ but Chima Moneke in this same bucket. He said, "Look, these two guys, they can defend anyone. They can defend 1 through 4, but if they won't shoot, then it's a negative on the offensive end. We can't have the negative on the offensive end. So if you're a plus 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 on one end, but minus minus on the other end, are we going to really make any headway?" And so I honestly think that like the Keegan Murray era is going to happen much sooner than like maybe even Mike Brown thought. Once he sees it in actuality in an NBA game where they're just collapsing and leaving KZ Okpala the whole time, then you know you're in trouble. And you can even say the same thing about Trey Lyles. I don't think they were really defending Trey Lyles hardly at all. They were just gumming up the whole offensive system, and Lyles didn't answer the call, just like Davion Mitchell didn't answer the call going 1 of 8, and Monk to really struggle with the shots. So I think we might see changes already. I think they're going to be really really flexible with how they use that 4 position and the starting 5.
Do you? Did you guys talk to KZ Okpala today?
We did.
What was there any? Did you anything to take away from that? I mean, was his shooting brought up with him or lack thereof?
No, because like, look, I don't think KZ Okpala thinks he's a bad shooter. He just hasn't shot. So, but you can't go out there and play 18 minutes and have one shot, because that just means that the other team is playing 4-on-5 on that end. And that extra guy, I guarantee you, I know exactly where that extra guy was. He was sitting on Sabonis's hip and beating the living tar out of him. And so you just can't have that. And I think he knows that. But he also knows that, his real job is to go out there and play defense. And there's got to be some sort of happy medium that they find between him playing defense and him, becoming an offensive liability, which, that's what you don't want. And if he's cutting and he's moving, that's fine. But he has to actually, at some point, he has to actually try to shoot shots and space the floor. So, again, that's where I think that, even like the interview was, KZ Okpala is slowly getting more comfortable with the media, which has been an issue so far just because he's super quiet. And he gives us like
done it before.
Yeah, he gives us like 3-word answers, but I think he's getting a little bit more comfortable, and I also think he's a lot brighter than he lets on. He's a kid who got into Stanford, and not many people get into Stanford, and he's a guy who got in, and I think he's playing. He doesn't want to talk to the media a little bit, and he's not used to it, and he's not comfortable with it. So we're getting sort of this weird version of him early on.
We saw, I think it was the Lakers preseason game. Like KZ shot, like he looked to. I don't want. It's not like that he was aggressive, but like he looked to get his shot there a couple of times. I wonder, looking back, and this was not something that I was paying super close attention to. I wonder if it was something he passed up. Like, did he pass up looks to try to find something else? Did the ball not come to him in scoring position, or did he just not look to get actively involved in the offensive end? I'm not really sure. I'm curious how Mike may choose to address that, though, because clearly if the Keegan Murray era is approaching, it's not tomorrow. I'll rephrase that. It's almost certainly not tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, it might be. Well, we'll have to wait and see.
That would be a unique turn of events if it's tomorrow, but sure.
Yeah. Look, when I was watching, I thought that there's 1 or 2 times where I thought KZ didn't take a shot. Outside of that, like, that must mean that he's not moving enough. He's not used to playing off the ball like that. I mean, he's used to playing off the ball, but he's not, again, used to playing with a guy like Sabonis. So I don't know if he wasn't active enough. I'd have to go back and watch the whole game and kind of see
Yeah.
those 18 minutes and pencil it out. But I also think this. You mentioned in that Lakers game he looked good. I'm getting the feeling that the Lakers aren't any good.
You know,
I'm
uh,
getting that feeling that they just aren't very good.
that might that might be accurate.
It might be.
There's a lot of evidence mounting to
Their
support.
backcourt go 1 of 19 from the field and 1 of 12 from 3.
Um,
Oof.
no, it was 1 of 25. Well, once you factor in Kendrick Nunn, who
Okay.
was off the bench, was 0 of 7.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh
So,
yes. So 1 of 18. Yeah,
yep, and then
from the field.
oh yeah, it is bad.
Yeah, that's not great. That's not great, Bob.
It's not. It's not. But you know what, James? That's not our damn problem.
It's not.
That's not our problem.
It's not. Yeah, but you know what? Like, look, I think the Kings are going to be in a battle with those guys because I still think there are 4 teams that don't really care about winning at all, and the Lakers do care about winning, which is whether
Yeah.
or not they can win.
Well,
And
that's been debated.
yeah,
That's been debated over the last couple of days.
yeah, and I think it's going to be the same with the Kings.
Does whether everyone in the Lakers uniform cares about winning and losing
Yeah.
seems to be a source of discussion within Lakers world.
Yeah, and I think with the Kings, we're going to have to wonder the same thing: can they win? You know, because like, they have a very difficult schedule, and you got to worry about the team that's next, and that's what Mike Brown keeps focusing on. And we're not even looking at Sunday; we're just looking at Saturday night's game against the Clippers. But you know, you look at the first 5 to 10 games of the season, this could get dark really quick, and then they'll be trying to dig themselves out of a hole all season. That's a possibility, and whether they can do that or not, we don't know yet. But I kind of like the direction they're going coming out of camp. But you're running into a buzzsaw, so let's see how you react.
I think Sunday's game goes one of two ways. Kings still a win, or the Warriors beat the holy hell out of them. And they smile at Mike Brown with like your welcome back to the NBA, coach, and give him one of those deals.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I also like if you look at the Clippers too. The Clippers may or may not have Kawhi. It sounds like Kawhi won't play on back-to-backs, but we don't know which game in the back-to-back. And what's playing to the Kings' advantage is that they play them on Saturday, and then of course the Clippers go home, and that's their home opener on Sunday. And so it's possible they may hold Kawhi out for their home opener as opposed to hold him out against the Kings. And yeah, so like I think it's going to be interesting. I mean, we're going to have to wait and see. And like, are the Warriors going to be the Warriors early in the season, or are we going to have to wait a handful of games? I get the NBA didn't want to suspend Draymond Green, but I still can't believe that the NBA hasn't stepped in. And, for game one, I get it because they have the ring ceremony. And Mike Brown will get his ring on Sunday. But how does the league allow one of its players to hit another player in the face in practice and not have a league-mandated suspension? I don't care what the Warriors want to do. I mean, sure, the Warriors could have handled it in-house, but they didn't. Like, how is it that you're just going to allow Draymond Green to get away with that? That doesn't make any sense to me.
I guess. I mean, I guess the simple answer is the NBA doesn't mandate that stuff.
No, it does. I mean, it's their player. So what does that mean? That I mean, again, we talk about legal precedents in the past, right? Well, what does that mean if Chimezie Metu decides he wants to haul off and hit Alex Len in the face? The league isn't going to step in and do something? Like, what do you like?
No, and would. And my guess is Alex Len would. So
of course, but
Metu not to do that.
But you understand what I'm saying? I'm saying,
I do, but I guess it's at the forefront of my mind the Aaron Donald thing at the joint practice where people were calling for him to be suspended for swinging a helmet around, and the NFL essentially was like, practice, like we don't suspend players for what they do at practice.
We don't regulate practice. Yeah, but that's not what the NBA has ever been about.
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you at all. It's just I don't know. This whole thing with him is weird. I don't think he's going to be super consequential in this game on Sunday. I think there are far more greater players of consequence than him. And with or without Kawhi, I mean, John Wall ate up the Kings twice last season. And he was very good last night. And I think he's going to be very good this season. I think he's going to be a great piece for the Los Angeles Clippers. And I think the bench unit, Davion's got his work cut out for him, because that second unit for the Clippers, let's operate as if Kawhi is playing. That bench unit for Los Angeles, even without Kawhi, that's a good second unit. And there can't be any fall off there for Sacramento. Like Davion's going to have to be on point on both sides of the floor. And if Keegan is available, he's going to have to, they're going to have to produce.
Yeah.
Last night, there was no big scorer for the Clippers last night. They were just, just steady. Yeah. They were just steady across the board.
Yeah. I mean, their bench unit, John Wall, Nick Batum, Robert Covington, Luke Kennard, and Terrence Mann and Kawhi Leonard. That's stacked.
Luke Kennard, I think, shot well last night.
Yeah, Luke Kennard's a good ball player. He shot 3 of 3 from 3, 4 of 6 from the field, had 11 points off the bench. Kawhi had 14 off the bench. John Wall had 15 off the bench. Again, their bench was really strong, and their leading scorer was 15, but they had 2 guys scoring 15 and 3 guys scoring 14. Sort of that, they're coming at you from all angles. I'll also point out, look how bad of a game the Lakers had, shooting wise. They only lost by 6.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't love, Leezy in the chatty house says, I love Luke Kennard. I don't love Luke Kennard, but I like the type of player that Luke Kennard is, he's a guy who just flat out hits his shots. And he doesn't make a bunch of mistakes. He's a high efficiency player. And, again, I recommend, before the Kings made the move for Herter, which, again, you could kind of say Herter is a similar type of player. I said, why not Luke Kennard? Why not a Rashawn Holmes for Luke Kennard trade? That would have made a lot of sense.
Another takeaway from last night's game, if you still have the box score in front of you. Again, what would you say? The Clippers won by 6. The Lakers, despite the fact that everyone, from LeBron James to Rob Pelinka to Jeannie Buss to the ghost of Dr. Jerry Buss, knows they don't have shooters. They shot 45 threes yesterday.
How is that possible? 9 of 45.
They shot 45. Everyone knows they can't shoot, but they said the hell with it and shot 45 threes. So the fact that they were 9 of 45 and lost by 6 is that's an interesting look at the Clippers offense right there, who were just playing. The Clippers were almost methodical in their approach last night. They were not in a hurry. They did not take the ball off the rim and run. They're like, we're chilling. We got this.
Yeah, that, and I mean, it's pretty simple. I think every team is going to do this around the league. When you're playing the Lakers, you're just going to clog the middle. You're just going to go ahead and beat us from 3. If you can beat us from 3, we'll adjust in the late third quarter. But I don't think you can beat us from 3. So if we slow you down, we don't let you get in transition, and then we turn you into a half-court team, again, it comes down to that whole, points per possession. Or if you're going to get them to take a bunch of mid-range jumpers that are worth, 0.8 per possession, and you're getting a bunch of 1.2s, and they don't have a 1.2 in their bag outside of LeBron James getting to the bucket. But again, if you collapse the lane, keep them out, and don't let them get inside circle, you could really muck up a game against the Lakers. That's what it looks like. And they probably should have done something to address the lack of shooting. I mean, you can even make the argument, they just flat out lost their best shooter to the Kings in Monk. Mm-hmm. That's their best shooter. I mean, Lonnie Walker had a good first game, but do you expect Lonnie Walker to have that game every single night? I mean, you certainly don't expect Monk to have the game that he had in the opener, or Davion Mitchell, but Lonnie Walker's never proven he can be consistent, or if he did, he would still be with the San Antonio Spurs.
36 points in the paint for the Clippers, 40 for the Lakers. can the Kings have a high level of points in the paint, or
Oh
is that
yeah.
not conducive to their way they want to play?
No, the Kings can have a ton of points in the paint. When you consider Fox, Sabonis, your transition buckets, throw in, Harrison Barnes taking guys off the dribble, Malik Monk taking guys off the dribble, Terrence Davis if he's going to be in the rotation. I think the Kings can have a bunch of points in the paint. I just don't think they did a good job of it in Game 1. And again, they dared the Kings to beat them on the three, and they did. I mean, 17 3-pointers in a game is really good. Shooting almost 39% from three on 44 attempts. That's crazy. You should win that game if you're the Kings. But it came down to, not only turnovers, but the types of turnovers. And Fox really took a lot of accountability for that. Just like, look, just the hand, like what the dribbles just didn't work. Like way too many. He said at least half of my turnovers were just flat out unforced. Just like the ball didn't go where I thought it was going to go, and I gave it away. And I don't think we'll see that for a while. I mean, he might have like 4 and 5 turnover games, but not 8. 8 is tough.
Yeah. The Kings had 38 points in the paint against the Blazers. So for context, again, the Clippers had 36 last night. The Lakers had 40. The issue was less the 38 and more the fact that the Trailblazers had 56.
Yeah. No, that was a problem. I mean, well, that's going to be the biggest difference between playing a team like the Lakers and playing a team like Portland. You just can't leave Simons and you can't leave Dame Lillard open on the perimeter. They'll just kill you. So where teams are going to give the Lakers a 3-point shot, they're just not going to do that against a team like against Portland. And so that means that you're going to have to allow the spacing, and that's how you get all those points in the paint. I thought that the Kings had quite a few breakdowns, but I also like most of them. There every once in a while you saw like an open bucket, but I thought a lot of contested buckets, a lot of and ones, which is what we were talking about yesterday. Like a lot of and ones, and a lot of that is because the Kings were on their guy. They were playing solid defense, but in the NBA, you're going to get whistles all the time, anytime you're in the post, except for when it came to Sabonis and having guys draped all over him and guys like holding onto his arms while he was trying to grab
And
rebounds
Yusuf
and stuff.
Nurkic shoving him to the floor 3 straight times with no
Three straight
foul
times.
call. We'll come back. That's a joke, by the way, for those who weren't with us yesterday. We'll come back. What needs to happen for the Kings to get in the win column this weekend? We'll discuss that with our 1320 Kings insider, James Ham, when we return here on Sacramento Sports Leader, ESPN 1320. Got you. Sandler tickets right after. I was trying to make it the whole show, guys, but I got to get up for a second. Hammer, I'll be right back.
Sweet. The Soulshine band. Yeah, I mean, you want to give Malik Monk a little bit of time to figure out who and what he is, but I'll tell you that most of his career he's come off the bench. Like that's kind of who he's been. And yeah, I think that like I would like to give him that excuse a little bit, but not really. Like he knows his role. He's played that role quite a bit, and he's got to be better. And I don't think anyone, and none of these guys thought that they were amazing in that game. So Malik Monk has started a total of 38 games out of 310 in his career. He's always come off the bench. This is sort of the role he's played until last season. And even last season, more than half of his games, he came off the bench. Got to be better. Ham, do you agree Monty holds on to assets too long? Barnes and Holmes should be gone. Great people, but inconsistent. Look, Leezy, I think the biggest thing is Monty makes deals when deals are there to make. And I know that's like a cop out, but I would have liked to have seen him be more aggressive on trade night. I would have liked to have seen him be more aggressive at other times. But when the big deal was there to make, he was aggressive and did it. I don't think that's one thing that I think we still don't know enough about. Did he hold on to like his assets last year too long? Yeah, he did with Marvin Bagley and Buddy Hield, but I would rather him hold on to his assets and get someone like Domantas Sabonis than panic and do something silly and come away with nothing. So I get what you're talking about, but I don't know. Holmes and Holmes needs to play better. He knows that. Harrison Barnes certainly needs to play better. I expect Harrison to kind of wake out of his slumber a little bit. He wasn't great in preseason either, and I think that's like if he's not gonna be the player that he has been in the past, and Keegan Murray's gonna step in and play like huge minutes, we'll start seeing a reduction in minutes for a guy like Harrison if he doesn't find his way. Let me see. This really hasn't gone in his bag for that sweet push shot yet. Foxy Saboner, I totally agree. I would like to see more of the push shot, more of who Rashawn Holmes is. He does not look like himself right now, but he also doesn't have a bunch of pick and rolls. So give him a little bit of a break there because the Kings just aren't running pick and roll game, and that's not something that's in their offense right now. And that's where he really thrives. He's a rim runner and a pick and roll guy, and it doesn't have to be just a roll. Sometimes like the push shot, if you can remember, he would set the screen, Fox would go around, and then Fox would drop it back to him near the free throw line for the push shot. Like none of that's there. It hasn't been there. Great, I got a delivery right now.
Nice.
New washer and dryer.
Probably. Very good.
It's we've needed a new washer and dryer for a while.
I was going to say it's definitely something home improvement, so I wasn't far off.
Well, yeah, but I ain't putting that thing in. Someone else carrying that upstairs. Not me. Not it. They can install it for me. I paid the extra $40.
There you go. Worth it every time.
Take away the old ones. I don't want to deal with those either.
Did the same thing last year. Clothes stopped drying. I was like, yeah, we need to get these out of here.
Our washer isn't that old, and it blew like so it shakes the whole house.
Mm.
And the corgi sits there and waits for it. She sits there waiting, and then attacks it as soon as it starts making the crazy noise.
That's hilarious. 30 more thumbs up, guys. Can we get 30 more? 30 more today? Do they have Wi-Fi technology on them?
My refrigerator does, but that doesn't seem to help me at all.
My Wi-Fi doesn't. My washer and dryer don't. Like, it was more expensive. It was useless. What am I going to do with this? It's going to alert my phone when the clothes are done. Well, I know when the clothes are done. I'm probably still going to leave them there. Break.
James, can we see?
Hang on.
Okay.
Live on the Odyssey app as we close out the week, 1320 AM, 98.5 FM HD2. We're on Twitch and Twitter as well. You missed any part of the show, you can catch up on those streaming channels that I just mentioned, Twitch and Twitter. You check out the D'Lo and KC podcast wherever you get podcasts from. Same place you get the Kings Beat from. We've got tickets to see Adam Sandler, by the way. We're going to give those away right now, 916-909-1320. Caller number 3 will get you set up. Again, 916-909-1320. See Adam Sandler perform at the Golden One Center in December. Are you a Adam Sandler guy?
Yeah, I would love to go see Adam Sandler. I don't know, like I remember his stand-up from years ago. I don't know how his stand-up is now. We talked about this, how disappointed we are in some of the movies he's made. while he's been with Netflix. But I certainly think that like it would be a fun night out. Like if
Mhm.
you like stand up comedy, and again he was so funny. Like I had a couple of his like comedy albums early. I thought it was good stuff. Makes you laugh.
There's a stretch in December um, where I don't know the exact. I think it's the 10th and the 11th, but I'm not positive. That Kevin Hart is performing at the Golden One Center. And then the next night, and this was the show we were alluding to that we couldn't say on the air because it hadn't been officially announced. I didn't realize it was the very next night. It's Kevin Hart one night, and then the very next night it's Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock at the
Oof.
Golden One Center.
Yeah, I'm in. I would go see that. Yeah. I haven't done a lot of comedy shows, but I always enjoy them. I would go for sure.
Yeah, it's December 11th and 12th. Kevin Hart and then Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock. I've seen Kevin Hart gets a bad rap. I don't find the movie shtick kind of like Adam Sandler. I don't find him to be particularly funny in movies, but I do find his stand up to be funny. Some of it, not all of it. I feel like I'm on the verge of burying Kevin Hart, so I'm gonna leave this alone. I want to see Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock though. Like that's one.
Yeah. Yeah, if I were gonna like I would go to that show, the Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock show, then Adam Sandler, then Kevin Hart. Not to like
Bury Kevin Hart even further.
well,
I, I was bored. He did something on Netflix with, and maybe this is Netflix's problem, with Mark Wahlberg. Oh, it was so bad. I turned it off and
with Kevin
left.
Hart?
It was Kevin Hart and Mark Wahlberg.
Oh yeah.
It's terrible. Like it is just awful. And I turned it off and left it. And I think it was last weekend. I was just bumming around like, oh, I never finished this. I put it on, and there was like 20 minutes. I turned it off again, and it's just like, forget it. I don't know nothing.
Oh, it's coming to me now. I did watch that all the way through, and it was absolutely horrible.
The one where he's like his friend and he gets him into trouble. That movie, it's terrible.
Yeah, it is terrible.
Awful.
Yeah.
Both of them should be ashamed of themselves.
They should. They should. I mean, I like Mark Wahlberg. He makes some fun movies, but I think like a lot of that is like, I don't know if he's making great stuff now. He made much better stuff when he was younger.
Speaking before we get back to the Kings, your thoughts, James Ham, on the newest San Francisco 49er, Christian McCaffrey.
I think like my first reaction is like super excited because he's so electric and he can do so much, but he's also always injured. And every running back the 49ers have is always injured. And Kyle Shanahan's offensive scheme and everything else, it leads to injuries for running backs. And I don't know how he can hold up. Like you can't run him a bunch. Chris Peterman was at practice today and we were talking about a little bit, like you can't give him 12 carries in a game up the middle. That's just not going to happen. Jeff Wilson's going to have to still play. When Mitchell gets back, he's still going to have to play. But I do like the idea of him as a receiver. I like him, like all of the things that they can do. But like, are you just transferring whatever Debo was able to do last year to McCaffrey? And how do you use Debo then? And you're already having trouble figuring out how to use Kittle. You've had trouble figuring out how to use Ayuk. Like Kyle Shanahan he's got to do some soul searching on how he can make his team as electric as, say, the Kansas City Chiefs, who are probably going to roll over the 49ers this weekend because they know exactly how to have an electric offense.
See, James, that's negative. I don't want to skew negative here because the 49ers, and I said this about the Kings, if the Kings are going to be better, if the Kings are going to be a playing team or a playoff team, if the Kings are going to be a good team, they're going to have to figure out a way to beat teams better than them.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Clippers. That's the Warriors. That's the Grizzlies. That's the Heat. That's most of their schedule for the next like 10 games are teams better than they are. And The thing that concerns me the most about the 49ers, though, they're getting Nick Bosa back. Trent Williams is back. Getting some guys back. That's big. The thing that bugs me the most is that Kansas City's coming off a loss. That's what concerns me the most is they're coming off that loss to Buffalo. I'm sure they zeroed in on that game film. Christian McCaffrey, I'm sure, will have a role, though not a big one, in this weekend's game, and I think that makes it tough for the 49ers.
Yeah, I think if you're a Niners fan, the biggest thing you should be looking out for is that you lost your starting defensive back like 2 weeks ago, and now you're going up against one of the greatest passers. And somehow, like, he just finds a way to get away from people. Mahomes does. So him coming off a loss is a big deal. I'll also say this, like, I always have a little bit, like, I watch almost every single one of Mahomes' games because we have him in fantasy, and he can wear on you. Just like some games, he's just not 100%. Like when things aren't going well, he's not a guy that can pull you up out of like things not going well and can create. And I don't think that they've really done him like any favors with the receivers they bring in. You know, they go out and they get a bunch of guys who are literally known for dropping passes, and they drop passes. And so you're kind of waiting for Mahomes to get, you know, if he could get a Christian McCaffrey, just think how good he would be, as opposed to Edwards-Helaire, who has been better this year, but really not great. Yeah, so it should be a good game, and it should be a fun game. But I wouldn't be shocked if the Niners just, you know, get bombed. They need to open up the playbook and go for it against a team like that, and then hope that their defense is good enough, which it should be, to do some damage against Mahomes.
You talked about Christian McCaffrey's versatility and playmaking ability that just a minute ago. Who's the most versatile player? Who can do the most on the Sacramento Kings?
It's probably still Fox. Like, I mean, again, you look at game one, 7 rebounds, 7 assists. You know, he had 2 steals, but he probably also had like 5 or 6 deflections. If he can shoot the 3, it does make him like the crazy triple threat, 3-level scorer that the Kings need. Because again, like last season, his jump shot was clean inside the key. He was 45% on almost anywhere from 3 feet out to the 3-point line. He was around 45% with his jumper. And he's great at finishing at the rim. He's around 70% at the rim. So I'm going to say it's him. I think that Sabonis is extremely versatile as well. I'll also tell you, like, Terrence Davis is a very versatile player. Just like what we saw in game one where, you know, Mike Brown said, hey, go defend Damian Lillard down the stretch. Like, I didn't think that he could do that. And sure enough, he was out there doing it. And he's a strong, physical, true 6'4" player. And he's also a guy who can score in a variety of ways. That can rebound. That can block a shot when he needs to. A good steal guy. You know, so overall, I think, you know, you do have a bunch of versatile players on this roster. And then we haven't even got to Keegan. I think Keegan will be one of those guys too once he starts playing.
I think that has to be the most exciting thing moving forward for the Kings, even if you're down on what the schedule looks like and you're concerned about what their win-loss record will be. Seeing Keegan Murray start his NBA career, getting acclimated, and see what from summer league to preseason training camp, all of these things that we've heard, what can all of that turn into here as he takes the floor for the first time against some of the best teams in the NBA?
Yeah, he told me on Wednesday before the game that he had circled the Clippers game as one that he's really excited. He wants to go up against a Paul George and a Kawhi Leonard. He's looking forward to that. Like those, it's exciting for him to, you know, step on the court with legends and go out there against guys who, you know, are pretty much both are, you know, Hall of Fame type players. Paul George is probably a Hall of Famer. Kawhi Leonard definitely is. But, you know, he's really excited to go out there against those guys and see what he can do. And, the excitement building for him, I mean, it's going to be huge. So hopefully he comes in and has success early in his career and gets right into the Paolo Banchero conversation, who at this point could just, like, run away with that Rookie of the Year trophy.
Yeah, he's the weird thing about him, like we all knew he was good, but we say this about Keegan. He looks like a grown up. He looks like a straight man out there putting on the performance that he did his first game. That's one that I can't wait to see. What does he settle into? Like Keegan Murray, Paolo Banchero, the same thing. What do those two guys settle into? Like, who are they their first year in the NBA? Because what Paolo did on night one is phenomenal.
Yeah, I think if you really look at Paolo, like it's Blake Griffin without the crazy hops, but that's who he is. It's the guy who
Corey
can.
Joseph disagrees.
Yeah, yeah.
Corey
Well, yeah. Corey Joseph is also my height, but yeah.
Oh, that's true.
I mean, he's a little bit taller, but yeah. I mean, I think that what we're going to see from Paolo is, I even like the Carmelo comparison, but he's a much better rebounder, and he can do a lot of things. Like I think he's, especially as a passer, he's an exceptional passer. He's only going to get better, and you got to like what Orlando's doing. They've got some really nice pieces to build around, and if they ever get Jonathan Isaac back, like that could actually be something. Especially even if they get him back and they're able to like flip him for more backcourt depth. Well, not point guard depth, but back, a big shooting guard, because they've got a bunch of smaller. They've got a bunch of combo guards. So, and if Suggs is going to step up and be that guy too, that Orlando team's going to be a blast to watch.
Yeah, I think so too. They're, I don't think they're a threat to anything, but they're not one of those bottom teams either. They're a team that is accumulating some talent and could be good. That they're building something.
Yeah, I like Wendell Carter. I like Mo Bamba. I even like when we were talking about this, like during draft time. That's who Paolo needs. He needs a crazy shot blocker, a guy who can really have his back as his front court mate. And I think both of those guys can really have some impact for him. And then of course Wagner is developed and really become a much better player than I thought he would be. But like he's proving to be extremely versatile too. It'll be interesting to see how that team grows. I mean, give them 2 years, they could be a team that's pushing for Eastern Conference championship type stuff.
You think the Kings get on the board this weekend?
Yeah, I'm going to say yes. I don't know which game, but yeah, I think they can.
You heard it here first. They're coming back 2-1. James Ham said it. 2-1 after the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that they were not good in the opener, and they understood that. I think it was like a coming back down to earth moment for them. I think that's a good thing at some point, to have those moments where things go wrong. But I also think that, they came back. They had 2 days to prepare for game 2. And, it's going to be rapid fire. But, why not? Like, I think that this team is got the mentality that it doesn't matter who's in front of them. They're going to focus. They're going to try to get a win against whoever it is. And in an 82-game schedule, this front 10 games is going to be really difficult. But at the same time, like, nobody is sure who they are in the first 10 games of the season. And teams make mistakes like what happened in game 1 for the Kings. The Clippers could easily overlook the Kings and just get flat out smoked as well on Saturday. We'll have to see who this team is, like, early. Like, there's going to be some challenges here. There's going to be adversity. How do you step up? How do you figure it out? Can you go in there and shock some people and take care of business where you didn't in a game that you should have on Wednesday?
And that's been one of the biggest lingering questions all offseason is, how does this team handle adversity when it hits? Because we all know it's going to hit. Become a premium subscriber over at thekingsbeat.com. Guys, I give you my word, this will never, ever happen again. But we have to end the show. We're going to a baseball game. We got Phillies and Padres coming up here in just a few minutes. So we have to cram a bunch of commercials into a short time frame so we can get to the baseball game on time. So we've got to end a little bit early. Again, I'm sorry, and I will fire off an email when this show ends to ensure it never happens again. James, we appreciate you as always. We appreciate